President Biden was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. And there is a lot of discourse surrounding this. The first being that how did they know, or how did they not know, right? Did he have this cancer while he was in the White House and they hid it from the American people? Will Joe Biden still be able to run for president in 2028, even though he'll be battling prostate cancer? There's just a lot of discussion happening here. And I don't want to come off as totally heartless. I do extend my sympathies to former President Biden. I would not wish cancer upon my worst enemy. I am not an entirely heartless person. It sucks that he has to deal with this. It sucks that he once again has to deal with cancer in his family. Of course, his son Bo died from brain cancer. But I don't want this to overshadow President Biden's tenure in the White House, and nor do I want this to overshadow really his tenure in politics as a whole. I, as someone who talks about politics, prefer to talk about politicians doing politics and what their policy record was. I don't think that we should be I'm not throwing a pity party for Joe Biden over this cancer diagnosis, nor will I be excusing everything that he did in office, regardless of whether he had cancer when he was in office or not. I do, again, wish him well. I hope that he is able to undergo the appropriate treatments. There have been various doctors. We're going to listen to one right now that says, this is treatable. It's uncurable, but it is treatable. Still, when we talk about Joe Biden, I'm very similar like when I also talk about athletes, right? I can talk about how fantastic of a basketball player Anthony Edwards is, even though he is a deadbeat dad and will spend more time with kids sitting courtside than he will his own children. I think that the dialogue in those specific instances should be limited to what the athlete does on the court, on the pitch, on the field, whatever, and what the politician does when they're in elected office. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's listen to what MSNBC has to say about this.
Of radiation oncology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and medical director of the Johns Hopkins Proton Therapy Center. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. First, your, general assessments of the diagnosis and how it was detected. Do you have any immediate questions about the timing of this and the severity of this diagnosis?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, I do have a number of questions just to try to get a better understanding of his diagnosis, the stage, how advanced it is. We received some information, noted that it's an aggressive cancer, form of prostate cancer. I saw a report that indicated specifically a Gleason 9 prostate cancer. We classify prostate cancer through the biopsy process and assign it a score, which is known as the Gleason score. And that scale goes from 6 to 10. And anything 8 to 10 we call high risk and has the most potential for metastasis or spread. And that defines, both the curability and the treatment options and the overall management strategy and the survival. So those are a lot of questions to get around to get a better understanding of his cancer.
His office has described it as hormone sensitive. Can you help us understand what that means?
Yeah, so prostate cancer, when it's first diagnosed, frankly, all prostate cancer likely is going to be hormone sensitive. The good part, usually we're telling patients, is that prostate cancer responds to hormone manipulation. That is, it uses testosterone to progress and advance. And so if we give treatments that essentially remove testosterone from the body, it immediately acts to halt the cancer and stop the progression and delay the spread. And so by default, by definition, prostate cancer generally when it's diagnosed is going to be hormone sensitive. And those are generally the first treatments that are applied for an advanced or aggressive case as is being noted as.
Dr. DeVille, another oncologist that I heard from mentioned that he was surprised that given that the former president has regular access to health care and screenings, and of course is a former president, that it is only now that this was diagnosed after it had already metastasized to his bones. What do you make of that? Is it just that this kind of cancer is so aggressive that by the time he was screened again, it had already spread? How surprising is it, I guess?
It is a little bit surprising for someone who we expect to have very, close healthcare and management. On the other hand, there are some controversies within prostate cancer that make it, perhaps not so surprising. Our screening guidelines generally advocate for screening somewhere from around age 50 or 55 to age 70. And depending on a few different, screening bodies, either recommend, not screening past age 70 for prostate cancer, or if the man.
I do want to interject here because it's been 3 minutes and I probably should have skipped ahead in the video to talk about I don't want to say like the political ramifications, but the political analysis that I can draw from this, because I'm not a doctor. Like, I'm going to let this guy talk because he knows what the fuck he's talking about. I will say, however, and it is relevant to this part right here, I, as a bystander, do think it's weird that you have this guy who is 80 fucking years old, clearly in physical and mental decline, and that he is not getting regular checkups. I find that really hard to believe and really gross that the Democratic Party, if they were privy to this information, still allowed him to go out and be president. I have jokingly said that making Joe Biden be president at 80 years old is elder abuse. Because why the fuck is this guy wasting the twilight of his life going out there and saying hubbubba to a fucking group of whoever the fuck? Like, let him be in Delaware. Let him get ice cream on the beach. Why the fuck is he in the Oval Office? So, if they had known about this and didn't intervene, shame on them. Shame on the Democrats. Not just for all of the political reasons for it, but for Joe Biden himself. Why would you allow him to experience this? Like, on a human level, why would you force him to undergo or to work in a demanding job when he is ill? And if he wasn't getting regular checkups, like, also, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why were you so negligent? I think this whole fiasco very much encapsulates the Democratic Party. They either do nothing or they do the wrong thing when there is the clear-cut correct option. Like, think about Jerry Connolly, the 76-year-old who was just appointed, or who was appointed previously to, I think it was the House Oversight Committee. He recently stepped down, but he was promoted to that committee despite having esophageal cancer. Like, this is an unserious political organization. Do you guys recognize that? These people do not, like, they're just fucking stupid. The entirety of the party is made up of brainless dipshits. I think my biggest takeaway from this diagnosis is that I don't believe Joe Biden should be remembered as the president who got cancer after he lost to Donald Trump. I believe that he should be remembered as the president who willingly gave billions upon billions of dollars to Israel so that way they could perpetuate the genocide, their genocide in Gaza. He should be remembered as the president who was complicit in the slaughter of tens of thousands, potentially even like multiple hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, a large majority of which being children. He should be remembered as the president who did not whip Benjamin Netanyahu enough. He should be remembered as a Christian Zionist who aided and abetted the grossest, who aided and abetted arguably the grossest historical event in recent memory. As I was saying in the beginning, when you are a public figure, when you are an elected representative, you should be remembered for the things that you did or didn't do in office. We look at FDR, for example. Yeah, FDR had polio, and FDR was in a wheelchair over his final couple of years as president, but that was not his legacy. Like, he was not remembered as a sick man who was in a wheelchair. He is remembered as one of the most impactful presidents in the history of the United States of America. He's remembered as the guy who passed the New Deal. He is remembered as the guy who fought for social security and fought for better workplace conditions, and really the guy who built the very fragile social safety net that we still lean on today. Well, this will be, like, obviously an ongoing situation. I am, however, really curious to see if the Democratic Party knew about this when he was in office, because that part is still a little murky, and I'm not so sure that will come out anytime soon. If anything, it would be an expose done in like 10, 15 years. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that, because that's not a productive conversation to have. But I will close with something positive. I hope that former President Biden is able to overcome this. I hope that President Biden does not, I hope that President Biden experiences a swift recovery, and I hope that he is able to overcome this diagnosis, because I am still, a sympathetic human being, perhaps to a fault, and I don't think that anyone and anybody's family should have to experience this type of trauma.